Hi, so this is a guide to the co-driver calls in Dirt Rally. The reason that I did this is because I haven't seen many explanations for this, and I know there's a misconception that the actual rally calls are just based around gearing, but that's not it at all. So what I'll do first of all is I'll focus on corners and turns, and then I'll focus on some of the other things that we'll see, especially on the screen, and I'll try and match those to the actual dialogue that's used. So first of all, if you look at the actual image in the bottom right, that is the turns in a nutshell. A six will require no real change of driving. You can take them flat out. It's only a slight adjustment in your direction of travel. A right five might sometimes need braking depending on the conditions, if there are any bumps, but generally a right five might be a slight let off the accelerator. A four, you might want to think about downshifting and maybe tapping the brakes, or certainly letting off the accelerator or pre-positioning the nose of your car as you enter. A three and a two is where it starts to become, you need to be prepared. If you're following the racing line, you can usually turn in and use sidewall braking, or you can try to slow yourself down. I mean, it depends on the conditions, but 3 and a 2 is where it starts to become a more conventional, it's a turn. You actually have to really change the velocity of your car now. A 1 and a right square. A 1 is probably, as far as I'm concerned, really similar to a square. It's the steepest turn that you're going to get. It's basically like a corner. You're just going to be turning in whatever direction. So you're going to need to slow down. You're probably going to need to use some kind of technique like the Scandinavian flick. Not so much in the car I'm driving now, or not so much in the more modern vehicles, but it will certainly help in some conditions. But you're going to need to be braking, you're going to need to turning, and you're definitely going to be downshifting. You're probably going to end up in first gear with one of the right ones or left ones that you make. Same with the square turn. Those ones are basically corners. You're going to need to slow right down, and nearly always, especially I'm driving Focus RS in this, I'm always coming out of those in a first gear. It would be an exception if I came out in the second. If I did, then I'd probably need to be kicking it with the clutch and giving myself a bit of a boost. Hairpins are the classic rally turn. If you're not sure what they are, it basically means you're going to drive straight down and then you're going to do a loop and pretty much come back the way that you've gone. But it still follows the concept of a turn, so it's a round shape. It's like a U bend. It's a U shape. That's probably going to need the handbrake, nearly always need the handbrake, or you can kind of, if rear wheel drive, you can spin your wheels out if you're fancy with the gearing. But you're going to be going down to first gear and you're going to be turning around and giving yourself a bit of a clutch override kick as well to get out of that. An acute is similar to the hairpin, except it's the sharpest turn you can take. It doesn't really follow that shape, that U shape. It's more like a V shape. So you're going to go down and you're going to definitely need the handbrake, and just swing the back end round and then pull yourself back up. So that covers the corners and the turn signals. Some other parts that you need to be aware of as well is the distances. So whenever it comes up with a number, it means whatever is happening, that is the distance to the next one. So if it goes a 5, 64, then it means you're going to be travelling 60 metres-ish until you get into the 4 turn. If you get anything which is like an and or an into, it means it goes straight into. So it's a 5 into 4 or 5 and 4, then it usually means that they're really close together, so they'll probably just follow straight on. But it's not an exact science, and certainly you'll see variations on that one. Where you hear things like care and caution, that basically means if you mess it up on that bit, you're going to get wrecked. So if it's a 4, caution, it might give you some more information, caution rocks at side, or care rocks at side, or care water. It's an addition to it, but generally when I'm rallying, especially on the longer ones, and it says it's a 3, caution rocks at side, that is a corner I'm actually going to really care about taking it correctly. Otherwise it's usually a rally ending, but it's usually a rally ending issue if it happens. Things like open and tighten, they basically just mean that the corner, if it's a 5 opens, then it's going to start off as a 5, but then it's going to become a lot easier and it'll give you some space to get out of it. If it tightens, it does the opposite. It might say like it opens, it tightens and opens, then it just means it opens and it gets tighter and then it opens. So it's the track width. And you need to judge that, because if you're going to sling yourself around a 4 and it says it tightens, you're probably not going to get out of the end of it because you're going to clip something on the side. So you need to be careful, especially on a track like this with snowbanks. Or the other things, let me think, like bumps. Bumps and crests and jumps is basically any kind of raised part of the track. It's going to send you up into the air. If you actually have a look at things where it's dips and stuff, if it says dips, they're not. I mean, they're not as bad as the game would suggest, but they can throw you off a little bit. So if you go around a corner on a dip, it can throw you up a little bit, especially if it's a corner into a corner with a dip. It's going to knock you off. So crests and bumps and jumps are actual raised parts of the track that are going to fly you up into the air, and I'll give you some tips in another video that will help you with that. Dips are ones where you're just going to be sinking into the ground, and they can damage your car a little bit, but I wouldn't really worry about it. Water splash is kind of common sense, but a water splash is going to affect the trajectory of your car. So if you go in at an angle, it's going to start slowing you in the direction that first hits the water. So you're going to get sent skidding across. Calls like gates, you need to be really careful of. Obviously it's a gate, so you need to prepare yourself for a corner so you don't actually clip any of that. And they'll usually be followed by something on the lines of don't cut, or just don't cut, or just don't cut the corner off, or anything like that, because if you actually do a cut when it says don't do it, it means there's something in the way that's going to absolutely wreck you. So every single corner where it says don't cut, I think there's a couple in the game where you can cut it, but 99 times out of 100, if you cut a corner, you're going to either smack into a bank that's going to flip your car, or you're going to crash straight into a rock. So that's all it means. That one's really straightforward. The rest of them, like I say, make a lot of sense. It's just those first sort of turns that are a little bit more difficult. But generally, you'll get used to it. And if you're playing the game and you're thinking, this is wrecking my head and I can't follow it, there's someone shouting at me, I have no idea what's going on, I can't follow this at the same time as actually drive. Well, what happens after you've been rallying in the same car for about an hour is cumulative and not necessarily in a row. Your brain just starts to listen to these calls without you actually doing it, and you'll pick up cues like the tree lines and you'll be able to predict it. And when you've done the tracks a few times, really all I'm listening out for is the don't cut and things like that. And I'll still do it. I'll still go around a corner and smash straight into a rock even though it said don't cut. But that's part of the reason why I like rallying instead of just driving around track. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope some of that helped out. And I don't mean to ramble at times, but there's quite a lot to cover. And I'll do some general rally tips, and I might do some track tips, but there's a lot to cover in rally because this concepts like acceleration and how you should even be accelerating, your weight transfer through corners, how to actually brake. I mean, not really a technique, but the concept of left foot braking in a rally game is really important, and using the gears to get yourselves in and out of corners and stuff. So I'll try and cover that in a separate video, but I'll try and make it so it's the basics, and then maybe I'll see what people want and we can do a track by track approach. Anyway, thanks for watching.